Part 49. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 481. Chapter 481 Shit Luck. Rong Xiu only needs to make it clear that she has room to live. Yuan didn't care much. He knew about this guy when he was in Qinjiao continent. At this stone wall, Rong Xiu leaned against the stone wall and immediately felt something strange. He stood up and scanned the stone wall with his consciousness. Waner, get out of the way. Yuan's master and servant stood up and moved away, looking at Rong Xiu. After a while, Rong Xiu threw an all-like spiritual treasure towards the stone wall. The stone wall suddenly flashed, and formation fluctuations were immediately heard. Yuan touched her nose. There was a hiding formation here. If Rong Xiu hadn't chased after her, they would have missed it. A long time later, when the broken formation cone opened a hole in the stone wall that could allow people to enter, Waner, come in quickly. Rong Xiu used his spiritual power to support him and shouted. Yuan quickly rushed in with two of them. Wow, God, we've made a fortune. Behind is a stone wall, which is a medicinal garden of dozens of acres. Rong Xiu kept clicking his tongue when he came in. Waner, you are so lucky. You can get out of a medicine garden just by relying on it. I will definitely not go wrong by following you, ha ha ha. Yuan, I'm just so lucky, how about it? How do I divide this medicine? Rong Xiu, you are 7 and I am 3. Why do I, a bachelor, need so many elixirs? If it weren't for the blood-eating monster worm that Waner gave me, I wouldn't want a blade of grass. The blood-devouring demonic insect is so delicious that he didn't know it until now. Yuan, okay. She has too many foodies. Little Snake and Big Black, you two go in and check if there is anything. For example, there are elixirs that have become spirits. This secret realm has been in this secret realm for so many years. These elixirs have matured for tens of thousands of years or even more than 100,000 years. There are all of them. It's not surprising that there are elixirs that can help you become smart and become smart. And the immature ones are also the seeds that fall and are born again. The two nodded, swished twice and ran away. After a long time the two came back and shook their heads. So the two men and the two beasts began their work of digging for the elixir. Rong Xiu picked out the mature elixirs to dig, while Yuan dug up all the elixirs he could, leaving behind every elixir that had just grown. After digging, Yuan sowed some more seeds and rained them down before everyone came out of the hiding formation. They are both very happy with their pets. Master, the little snake coquettishly curled around her wrist. Yuan flipped her hand and two red fruits, bigger than her fists, appeared in her hand. She gave one to each of them. This is the snake spirit fruit that spiritual beasts like to eat the most. When the little snake was in it, it would pester her to eat it. The two of them ate to their heart's content, and Yuan also found a place to rest. Are you still looking for it? Rong Xiu asked. Just take a look around. Yuan was satisfied after receiving such a great opportunity. That's okay anyway, he just followed her. This secret realm is not too big. After all, it used to be the tribe of the gods. Rong Xiu has been wondering what the secrets are in this secret realm. For so long, except for harvesting some elixirs, nothing else is of value. Back when the tribe of the gods was separated, there must be something great hidden here. What is it then? The days flew by and the year passed. Then they broke several formations, and there were also some worthless things in them. Some have also been weathered. Waner, after leaving the secret realm, I will follow you back to the section. You have to be careful, Rong Xiu said seriously just before leaving the secret realm. Waner's spiritual pet was completely exposed in front of the sect disciples, and she couldn't hide the matter when she returned. Well, you too. Yuan patted him on the shoulder, acting like a good brother. As soon as she finished speaking, the two of them teleported out. Ahem, cough, where is this place? As soon as Yuan landed on the ground and was still dizzy, a fishy stench and a thick poisonous gas enveloped Yuan. Yuan immediately held her breath and entered the space. Mother! Owner! Two men and two beasts flew towards her. Don't come here, it's poisonous. Yuan stopped them and quickly took out a 5th-level antidote pill and swallowed it. It took 2 pills in a row to cure the poison in my body. Yuan opened her eyes and looked at Liang Bao and Liang looking at her worriedly. She smiled, it's okay. Liang Bao nodded and helped her up. Have you packed all the elixirs? Liang Bao, well, my mother's elixirs are very old. That's what I saw after staying there for a year. Regarding this little thing, my mother said it as if those elixirs were Chinese cabbage, and each plant was worth a fortune. Let alone 1,000-year-old elixir, even 1,000-year-old elixir will cause great excitement in the world of immortality. Their old lady. Okay, don't worry about it. There will be more elixirs in my space than 10,000 years of elixirs. Go and practice quickly. Which cultivators have emerged in the world of immortality? The stronger the cultivation level, the more capable one will be of self-protection. Liang Bao rolled his eyes and flashed away. Yuan then returned to the wooden house and fell on the bed to take a nap. Let's say that as soon as Rongxiu came out of the secret realm, he went straight to Tianshan sword sect. As soon as he entered the sect, he heard the disciples talking among themselves. He grabbed a disciple and asked, "What do you think happened to Qingyuan Zhenzun?" The disciple said tremblingly, "A few months ago, Qingyuan Zhenzun fainted alone at the gate of the sect and has not woken up yet. Junior brother Rongxiu, Master asked you to go to the law enforcement hall as soon as possible." As soon as the disciple finished speaking, senior brother Rongxiu came to call him. "Come right here." Rongxiu was still in shock, and he rushed to the law enforcement hall. The disciples in the law enforcement hall are all their disciples who entered the secret realm this time. The law enforcement elder sat on it seriously. When he saw Rongxiu arriving, he asked, "Do you doesn't know what happened? Why did Qingyuan leave the secret realm in advance?" After more than a dozen disciples saluted in unison, one disciple explained exactly what Zhao Yuner had done in the secret realm. "You said Zhao Yuner is from the Wu tribe." The law enforcement elder was shocked. "Disciples, it's absolutely true." Another disciple added, "This is absolutely true. When Master Qingyuan asked her to get the antidote, we saw with our own eyes that she attacked a female cultivator with witchcraft medicine. If it hadn't been for the female cultivator's spiritual pet, she would have been harmed." Calamity. As soon as the disciple finished speaking, he suddenly realized something and quickly covered his mouth and looked at Rongxiu. I felt bad secretly. As expected, Rongxiu stared at him gloomily. The law enforcement elder at the top saw all their expressions, and he asked, "What kind of spiritual pets are so harmful?" The disciple, "They are the 2 divine beasts that the sect was looking for before." What's going on with Rongxiu? Rongxiu, back to the elder, "That's my friend. He said he couldn't hide it, but he didn't expect it to happen so soon." The law enforcement elder looked at Rongxiu secretly, and said in a deep voice, "Then why didn't you report it to the Ming sect before? Rongxiu, do you know what crime you committed? Are you afraid that your master won't be able to protect you?" Rongxiu stared at the law enforcement elder and said, "Elder, even if the disciple has not reported to the Ming sect, is it possible that the mighty Tianshan sword sect is going to kill people and seize the divine beasts?" End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 482. Chapter 482, Realm Gate. "You are outrageous, Rongxiu, do you know what you are talking about?" The law enforcement elder was furious. Rongxiu straightened his back, "Is what I said wrong? At best, I know the truth but don't report it. Is it possible that I just watched the sect kill her and take away her sacred beast? It was too late for him to protect her. He finally understood that the Tianshan sword sect was a bad sect that only wanted to gain fame and reputation. No decent and respectable sect would rob a casual cultivator's belongings. Rong Xiu felt unspeakably disappointed at this time. Then can't you hand her over or give her a replacement? Rong Xiu sarcastically said, if I were an elder, would you change it? The spiritual pet that someone works so hard to raise can be handed over or exchanged at any time. Who are you to her? These people's brains are screwed up. Change. What the hell, but this Rongxiu was so brave that he dared to challenge him in public. He narrowed his eyes and said, come here, take Rongxiu into custody. The law enforcement elder was so angry that his whole body felt uncomfortable. Let him taste the experience of his law enforcement elder later. He didn't believe that he couldn't pry Rongxiu's mouth open. As soon as he finished speaking, a burst of spiritual power hit Rongxiu's dantian to seal his cultivation. Then two law enforcement disciples stepped forward to ask Rongxiu. The dozen or so disciples next to him were so frightened that they lowered their heads to reduce their sense of presence. Changliu, you have such a loud tone. You can punish my disciples as well. At this moment, a loud voice came from far away and a figure appeared in the law enforcement hall. I've seen Master Uncle. The law enforcement elder Changliu Daizun immediately came down and saluted Master Yanji. Venerable Yanji said, Changliu, what has my disciple committed that you want to punish him for? This. Junior brother Rong knew about it but didn't report it, and then he still contradicted his nephew in court. How can you contradict him in court if you don't report the knowledge? Venerable Yanji's tone was calm, as if he was asking Changliu if he had lunch, but the aura on his body was so majestic that Changliu almost fell to his knees. Changliu gritted his teeth and said, back to my uncle, didn't the sect send us a sect mission before? Search for those two divine beasts. Junior brother knew that he had not reported it to the sect, and he just got into an argument with his junior brother because of this. Changliu had to tell about the two mythical beasts. Disciple, what's going on? Let's talk to Master. Venerable Yanji lifted the restriction on Rongxiu's dantian and nodded to him. Rongxiu was beating a drum in his heart when Master Yanji came. He didn't know what the master planned for the Waner beast. He didn't meet him often, and he didn't know his temperament, so he had to be honest. Said. In doing so, he still hopes that his master is not the kind of person who steals people's things, otherwise he would rather leave the bird sect and become a casual cultivator like Waner. After hearing this, Venerable Yanji turned to look at Changliu and said, my disciple is right, my noble Tianshan sword sect has not fallen into the trap of killing people and seizing treasures. What is the difference between this and evil cultivators? Who gave this order? Venerable Yanji suddenly released his pressure, causing Changliu to kneel down with a plop. Hui Shishu, yes, it's a mission from Yashao Peak. Absurd. Venerable Yanji put down two words, rolled up Rongxiu and left. Rongxiu felt somewhat better. He had to tell Waner the news as soon as he got back. Changliu stood up with a livid face and asked the dozen disciples to get down. He quickly flew to the Zongmen Hall. He was so angry that he almost forgot about the Wu clan. He had to report it to the sect leader, otherwise he, the elder, would really be waiting for the elder every day. In the space, Yuan got up only after she was full from sleep. She waved her hand, and a piece of black ore appeared in her palm. She held it in her hand and looked at it carefully. It was shaped like a door, with vaguely strange patterns on it. She looked at it like an ordinary stone carving. But her intuition told her that this thing was not a mortal thing. Suddenly, she drew a drop of blood from her fingertips. When the blood dripped on it, the thing sucked up the blood, and then the black layer on the ore fell off, gradually revealing something like a golden stone door. When the contract relationship was established with this thing, Yuan was overjoyed. This was really not a mortal thing, and then her consciousness entered. Ah! There was a sudden turn of events, and Yuan thought that her consciousness had been swallowed up, but it turned out not to be the case. She was pulled out of a door of light. Yuan looked into the light door. She was stunned. Opposite was a place filled with non-spiritual energy. The breath overflowed from the light door and rushed towards it. She could feel the power of that breath, and it was definitely not spiritual power. The towering trees there soared into the sky, and the floating palaces were so simple and majestic that just one look at them made her heart tremble. The people there were flying around like the people in the world of cultivating immortals. Some of them seemed to be talking about some joke, laughing so hard that they fell forward and backward. Some were sitting cross-legged and practicing, and some were practicing swordsmanship. What a fairy painting! Yuan was fascinated by it. After a long time, Yuan's consciousness moved to a floating mountain. As long as she wanted to, she could see the things on it clearly. She looked at it and saw that there was a large medicine garden above, and there were people taking care of the medicines in the medicine garden. She looked at the lush green herbs. These herbs were all new to her. At first glance, they were not ordinary herbs. She thought to herself that it would be great if she could take one and see what kind of medicine it was. Whoops! Suddenly a golden light flashed across, and a medicinal plant floated straight in front of her. Yuan shivered in fright. Did she steal some medicinal materials? She had no time to think too much, and was even more afraid of being discovered by the person opposite, so she hurried back. Following this, there was another moment of spinning, and the consciousness returned. Huh! Yuan looked at the medicinal plant in her hand. It was the one at Guangmen, and she also followed. Yuan took it in her hand and looked at it. This thing was so magical and weird. The aura on this medicinal material is majestic and contains a very powerful mysterious power. It is not spiritual power after all. What is it? Yuan murmured in her heart. She had only been exposed to mysterious energy and spiritual energy. Obviously, the aura on this medicinal material was beyond the scope of her knowledge. Is it fairy energy? Or divine power? Thinking about the origin of that secret realm, Yuan preferred divine power in her heart. This explains why the clan was destroyed and separated. That person should be looking for this, the realm gate. Those who get the boundary gate should be able to take whatever they want from the opposite side. Yuan's little heart trembled when she thought of the heaven-defying function of this realm gate. She didn't know whether it was a blessing or a curse to have it. Whatever she has, it is now her property. Whether it is a blessing or a curse, she cannot avoid it. She ducked and planted the unknown medicinal plant on the red soil before coming out. Yuan planned not to tell anyone about this realm gate matter. This matter was too big for their scumbag cultivation to bear. Yuan looked at the golden realm gate as big as her thumb in her hand. As soon as her consciousness moved, the realm gate entered her sea of consciousness. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 483. Chapter 483 Tomb of the Neptune King. Yuan took a few deep breaths to calm down. She calmed down and prepared to refine the 6th level antidote pill before going out. She came to the alchemy room and spent half a year refining more than 400 6th level detoxification pills. She took one and went out as soon as her consciousness moved. Outside, Yuan looked at the place filled with poisonous gas. Her consciousness moved again, and the little snake and the came out. You too, look what is this place. Was the way she left the secret place wrong? Bring her to this poisonous place. The two took a deep breath of the thick poisonous gas and quickly went to investigate. With less than half a stick of incense, two of them came back. Master, this is a cemetery, the tomb of the Sea King, the little snake said. A cemetery again, Yuan frowned. Is this the rhythm for her to dig someone's grave? Let's go, take me there. It was full of poisonous gas, and she couldn't use her consciousness, so of course she let the two guide her. Two nods lead the way. Arrive. Yuan was dumbfounded. Who could tell her why there were dozens of large skeletons in the tomb of the Sea King? Master Dehe raised his hand and waved it in front of Yuan's eyes. Was the master surprised? Fart. I was disappointed. Yuan came back to her senses and looked at the piles of skeletons. At least half of the burial objects were acceptable. Nima, what kind of is this? Sea King is so poor. Yuan felt uncomfortable anywhere on her body. However, these skeletons are the best materials for refining weapons. Based on the principle that thieves never leave empty, it's the principle that she never leaves empty. No matter what, she will dismantle a skeleton and leave. Grandmas, you can take it back and feed it to the blood-eating demon worms. Yuan did as she said. She summoned a magic flying sword and slashed at the joints of the skeleton. Chiang, sparks flew out, but the skeleton did nothing at all. Instead, it staggered her a few times. What the hell, Jingzizi? Yuan looked at Xiaoxi and Dehe. Dehe shook his head and said that he did not dare. The master was so bold to dismantle the body of Neptune. He is afraid of Neptune in his bones, so he doesn't have the courage to dismantle Neptune's body. They are dead, but their momentum is still there. The little snake flew over and asked, "Does the master want to dismantle this skeleton?" "Yeah, I didn't expect that there wasn't even a single treasure in this Neptune cemetery. Does the master want a baby? If not..." "Hi, master, I told you earlier." The little snake flew over quickly, fiddled with the frame, came back with something like a leather bag in its mouth, and put it in Yuan's hand. "What is this? The storage bag doesn't look like it." The space inside the body, the little snake looked at why its master was so stupid. Yuan's eyes were bright. "Go and collect them all." "Okay," the little snake flew away again. It knows the virtue of its master, and how can it not take the treasure when it sees it? I hope the master will not be too disappointed when the time comes. Poseidon is a real dragon. Dragons like shiny and jeweled things most, but not necessarily all spiritual things. The little snake knew them quite well, so it didn't take these internal spaces immediately. The little snake took a total of 49. Yuan put them into the space and went in to take a look later. She has to find a way to get out of here now. This place is a small, airtight space. She and the little snake Dehe are looking for it separately. Little snake and Dehe went looking for them after having a good meal. What they didn't expect was that as soon as they finished inhaling the poisonous gas, the barrier in this small space was instantly broken. Before one person and two pets could react, they were pressed by a strong pressure, and then the seawater flooded the place. Yuan only knew this was the bottom of the sea when she was unconscious. She fainted after the hum sound. The sound of boom wow entered Yuan's ears. Yuan looked at the beach and moved her fingers. Hiss, my whole body and soul ached, as if I had been run over by a car, but I didn't know if I had become a stranger. Huh? Sister, come and see, there is someone lying here at this time, a boy's voice sounded. Okay, Yuan couldn't move, and her consciousness was also damaged. The pain made her head buzz, otherwise she would have taken out the healing pill and swallowed it immediately. The boy ran close to her. She saw that he was a boy of 8 or 9 years old. He was wearing a summer coat and was barefoot, with his trousers rolled up high. The boy took a few steps back when he saw her appearance, covering his face as he waited for the sister he was talking about. The sister came running out of breath not long after, and was shocked when she saw her appearance. She protected the boy behind her and said tremblingly, "Are you still alive?" Yuan rolled her eyes. Didn't she see her eyes open? "Girl, where is your face? Where are the eyes?" She is not too old to be dim-sighted. Yes, little girl, don't be afraid. What are you afraid of? Judging by the expressions on their siblings' faces, she must have been terribly hurt, and she swallowed the words that followed. Sister, let's go and call our parents. When the little girl heard a woman's voice, she pulled the boy and ran away quickly. Yuan heard the sound of them running away, so she just closed her eyes and started to run the technique. A week later, Yuan frowned. There was no spiritual energy here. Is there also a mortal world in the spiritual world? Whether it was there or not, she quickly started running the technique. Even if she couldn't get the healing pill, Starju still had the function of healing the consciousness, but it just took a little time. In this cultivation, the pair of sisters and brothers did not come, and Yuan didn't care. It was better to absorb the qi of the month at night. Just be careful not to see any wild animals coming to the seaside. When the sky turned pale, Yuan's head finally stopped hurting so much. She endured the pain and entered the space with consciousness. Liang Bao heard the movement in the space and hurried over. Seeing her injured like this, Liang Bao cried instantly. She looked like this, and even their grandmother didn't recognize her. Dabao quickly crushed a healing elixir and sent the medicine into Yuan's body. As soon as the elixir entered the body, Yuan's body gradually recovered. At the same time, Bao sent the soul replenishing pill into her body in the same way. An hour later, Yuan sat up and wiped Liang Bao's tears. Stop crying, your mother's heart will be broken by crying. Seeing that she could joke again, Liang Bao quickly stopped his tears and threw himself into her arms, feeling her mother's breath. Yuan patted her two sons on the back and said, "You are still acting like a spoiled child at such an old age. How shameless are you? It is said that a daughter is like a little cotton padded jacket to her parents, and her son is not bad either." Yuan changed her clothes and took care of herself before coming out with her two treasures. Little Snake and Dahe don't know where they are. It doesn't matter if Dahe dies or not, but Little Snake can't. Mom, what kind of place is this? There is no spiritual energy, Bao asked. Yuan shook her head. This mother didn't know that the poisonous place that the secret realm sent her to was actually the tomb of the King of the Sea. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 484. Chapter 484, Which Clan? Yuan told the story again. Oh, let's ask the people here first, Dabao said, asking them where they can go back. So the mother and son flew towards the village by the sea. To avoid scaring the villagers, the mother and son landed on the ground early and walked over. In the village, dried fish are dried in fish nets in every courtyard. Some children were jumping around inside, turning over the dried fish with their hands from time to time. The three gorgeous mother and son entered the village, and the people in the village were shocked. Sky! There are such beautiful people in the world. They are immortals, right? The legendary immortal should look like this. Yuan walked to the yard of the house in front of her. She nodded to a woman who was still looking at the mother and her son in a daze, and asked, "Sister, may I ask where this place is?" The woman did not respond. Bao flicked his hand, and a trace of spiritual power entered the woman's mind. The woman came over in a flash, and Yuan asked again. The woman stammered, Hui Fairy, this is the Sea of Flames. Sea of Flames. Well, because there is a flaming mountain in the middle of the sea, there is fire there all year round, but it does not affect other sea areas. The mother and son nodded after hearing this. Yuan asked again, "What country are you from?" Woman, the Xinyu dynasty. Oh. Yuan is sure this is the secular world, but she doesn't know where it is. After the mother and son said their thanks, they walked out of the village and flew towards the flame mountain. The moment they left, Yuan made a stick and threw it into the village. After the mother and son left, the people in the village seemed not to remember what had just happened. From the woman's description, the fire in the flame mountain was probably not some ordinary fire. If it is a strange fire, contract it if possible. It just so happens that her fire magical power cannot be powerful without the strange fire. The mother and son quickly flew to the flame mountain. Flame mountain, the entire mountain is glowing with blue fire and stands in the middle of the sea. Yuan's consciousness swept away. So that's it, the entire flame mountain is within the barrier. No wonder the sea was not evaporated. Mom, we can't break through that barrier. Dabeo also discovered that the flame mountain was wrapped in a barrier. Well, not strong enough. In the formation inheritance, there is a way to break the enchantment restrictions, but they are not strong enough. Let alone the stage of transformation into gods, let alone the stage of refining the void. The person who put up this barrier must be in the Mahayana period. Seeing the treasure but not having the strength to take it, Yuan was heartbroken. But it seems that they are still in the spiritual world. Mom, let's go. The mother and son looked at each other for a long time, but they were helpless, so Erbeo opened his mouth and left. Yuan nodded and reluctantly prepared to leave. Someone is coming. Just as the mother and son were about to leave, their consciousnesses sensed someone coming. They had nowhere to hide on the sea. Yuan had no choice but to take the two treasures into the space, and then the space faced the flaming mountain. As expected, two figures came into her sight after a while. They stopped in front of the flame mountain, and one of them was performing a strange and complicated skill. When the sword hit the barrier of the flame mountain, a door actually opened in the barrier, but there was no flame coming from the door. Yuan was very excited. She had already memorized the skill. After the two people flashed back to their previous state of recovery, the mother and son came out. The mother and son flew to the barrier, and Yuan used her spiritual power to perform the same moves as the previous one. Both babies have to admire their mother's memory. They can remember such complicated tricks at a glance. They probably have to watch it twice. Their mother is really a monster. At this time, the barrier opened a door as before, and the mother and son entered in a flash. Wow, what a strong spiritual power! The mother and son came in and stood on a high mountain. Where was the fire coming from? It was clearly a small world. This place is full of aura, with towering trees, fragrant flowers, and chirping birds, but it is a rare paradise. Dabeo and Xiaobeo, please enter the space for now. Yuan thought about some hidden family here. She would find out later that they had broken in. She could not protect the two treasures by herself. The barrier was set up by the Mahayana monks, and this place is like a paradise in the cave. There are too many Mahayana monks, so be careful. Liangbao understood her intention and nodded. After Yuan accepted them, she took out an invisibility cloak in the space and put it on before flying down the mountain. At the foot of the mountain, there are spiritual fields everywhere, and many monks are taking care of the medicinal fields at this time. Judging from their uniform clothing, this must be a reclusive family. The family emblem above is a crane. Yuan moved her consciousness closer to hear what they had to say. Getting closer, the two people Yuan approached were sitting by the spiritual field and resting. Guanyang, don't sit down, let's get to work quickly. A young foundation building cultivator about 20 years old said to another young dream building cultivator next to him. The man who called Guanyang pulled a piece of grass and held it in his mouth, saying disdainfully, as long as you are diligent, go ahead. Alas! You still have the same temper. You will be punished later if you don't finish your work. It's not like I haven't been punished before. That's right, you are now in your 40s and you are still in the early stages of foundation building. It's none of your business. I like to play leisurely like this. It would be great if I could go to the world of immortality. Guanyang showed envy in his eyes. Humph, I'm not attacking you, but with your scumbag cultivation, you're just cannon fodder when you go out. Do you think your clan members are just going out to have fun? Guanlin, tell me, what are your father and the others doing out there? Guanyang leaned over and asked. Guanyang shook his head. I don't know. How could my father let us know the secrets of our Wu clan? That's right. If I can practice the techniques of my clan, I don't need to practice the techniques of the immortal world. Guanlin sighed. We can't get past the witch pond, but if you have spiritual roots, the techniques for cultivating the immortal world are the same, and they are easier to practice than witch cultivators. That's right. Guanyang nodded. If he couldn't practice the techniques of cultivating the immortal world, he would age like the people in his clan who have no spiritual roots and can't practice any techniques. So don't be lazy, I'm going to work. Guanlin clapped his hands and went to take care of the medicine field. You're so stupid, so many people are missing you. Guanyang spat at him. Hey! When can I go out? I can't see a single beautiful woman in this inhospitable place every day. Guanyang lay down again and muttered. Yuan withdrew her consciousness at this time, and her heart was filled with panic. This place was actually a witch clan. It turns out that the witch clan is not in the world of immortality, but in this mortal world. Still in the middle of the sea. No matter how hard you think about it, you can't imagine that the witch clan is actually here. It's just that they are doing well here. Why do they want to cause trouble in the world of immortality? Yuan couldn't figure it out even if she tried hard. She thought that since she came, she couldn't come back empty-handed, and she had to find out about this witch medicine. Looking at the vast medicinal fields, she saw that the elixirs in them were all new to her. They must be witch medicines. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 485. Chapter 485, Stealing the Elixir. What she never expected was that the witch medicine was also a magic medicine. I thought that witch medicine was also an ordinary medicine. Think about it, how can ordinary medicines grow to high levels? High-level medicines can only grow in an environment with abundant spiritual energy. Yuan hurriedly hid in the space and waited for night to come. When the night is dark and the wind is high, it is the right time to commit murder and set fire. Hey, who told her to sneak into the witch clan by some mysterious means? This ethnic group that makes people talk about it with shame, even if it is a dragon's pond and a tiger's den, she has to break into it. As night fell, Yuan came out of the space, put a defensive shield on her body and walked to the elixir field, walking through the field like a ghost. With less than one stick of incense, Yuan moved one of all kinds of elixirs into the space, and opened a separate section in the space for the two treasures to be planted. These are only elixirs of the 1st to 4th levels. The higher level ones must be supervised by someone. Yuan took advantage of the night to search. Houses appeared one after another behind Ling Tian. The houses were all made of mineral structures, and some were actually Dharma houses. Yuan lamented that the Wu clan has strong financial resources. Those houses should be occupied by the monks who took care of the medicine fields during the day. After this area, there is a village. The village is very big, like a city, with a city wall to protect the village. Yuan only looked outside the village with her consciousness. When she saw that no one was patrolling, she walked back around the village. At the back is another large medicine field, where are the elixirs of the 5th to 7th levels. In pieces. There are so many elixirs in Yuan's space, and she is salivating over them, wishing to take them all into the space. The elixir was guarded by monks, so she had no choice but to throw out little snakes. Hay was too big and had a big target, so he could plant the elixir in space. A little snake came out, and in less than half a stick of incense, it collected 1/10 of the elixir in the field. Now we were in big trouble. It was hard for others to find out, so Yuan asked the little snake to poison the two monks guarding the elixir into the space and imprison them. The little snake also broke their storage ring. If she gets into trouble, Yuan will definitely do anything and make the little snake run straight to the center of this space to get a witch cultivator back. The two people just now were still Taoist cultivators. There was no recipe for witchcraft medicine in their storage ring. They only found a jade slip of witchcraft medicine inside, which recorded the witchcraft medicines of grades 1 to 9. She needs witch medicine elixir. With the elixir, she can refine the antidote, so that witch medicine is no longer a mythical existence. The little snake went out to search for an hour and then came back. It said, "Master, I didn't find the witch medicine alchemist, but I found that there are many powerful monks here, at least 5 in the Mahayana stage." So much? Well, it's possible that it's more than that, it's just on the surface, but also behind the scenes. Yuan nodded and took the little snake into the space. It was dawn, and the Wu clan was going to cause trouble. Sure enough, the first monk who came to take care of the elixirs in the morning saw that so many elixirs had disappeared overnight, and the 2 tribesmen who took care of the elixirs were also missing. He was so frightened that he ran to report it to the elder of the medicine hall. Seeing him running in a panic, the medicine elder from the Wu clan spiritual medicine hall asked in a stiff tone, "Guanji, what big thing happened when you came here in a panic?" Guanji said, "Elder Huiyao, something really big has happened. A lot of the elixirs in Erdeokan have disappeared, and the 2 people who were in charge of the elixirs, Guanxing and Guanjian, have also disappeared." "What? Did those 2 brats steal the elixir and run away?" Elder Yao was shocked. "I'm not sure about this. Elder Yao, please go and have a look." Guanji didn't dare to say that the 2 people stole the elixir and ran away. Before the matter is decided, he is a smart person and cannot talk nonsense. "Walk." Elder Yao mentioned Guanji and flew out. "Look, of course you have to look, and you have to find out what is going on. Now the clan needs a lot of elixirs, but we can't let things slip at a critical moment. It is not easy to cultivate these elixirs. It is distressing to lose even one of them, and many of them have been lost." When Elder Yao arrived with Guanji, there were several monks from the clan standing by the elixir field. They were talking about it, some shook their heads, some sighed, and some were angry. When they saw the Elder Yao from the spiritual medicine hall arriving, they stepped forward. "Elder Yao, take a quick look." Elder Yao swept away his consciousness, his face turned black, and I lost 1/10 of my size. It is really a big deal. He moved quickly and ran to report to the clan leader. The chief of the Wu clan was talking to the elders of the clan when he saw the Elder Yao from the spiritual medicine hall flying in. He asked, "Elder Yao, what happened to you who came here in such a hurry?" Elder Yao cupped his hands and said, "Chief, something big happened." The patriarch's face sank. "Oh? What big thing happened? Since no outsiders have entered the Wu clan, what big thing can happen?" Even the elders of several other churches looked at him, waiting for him to say something big. Elder Yao said, 1/10 of the elixirs in Erdeokan are missing, and the 2 boys who were looking after the elixirs are also missing. "Oh? What's going on? Have you found out?" After hearing this, the patriarch became uneasy. Several other elders were also surprised that the boy who was in charge of the elixir dared to steal it. "Elder Yao, not yet. I will report it to the clan leader as soon as I find out." The patriarch immediately shouted, "Guanxin, go and call the elders of the execution hall." A woman outside answered yes and teleported away. Not long after, a majestic middle-aged man entered. "Chief, did you call me?" "Well, you and Elder Yao go to Erdeokan to investigate the theft of the elixir last night, and report it as soon as you find out." Elder of the Xingtang Hall, yes. He left immediately with Elder Yao. "Chief, our Dantang is afraid that it will be affected at this time," Elder Dan of Dantang said worriedly. "They just had a meeting to discuss it. Now the time is ripe and it's almost time to move. Just losing so much of this elixir at once will inevitably affect the entire plan." What they didn't know was that Yuan had simply forgotten to collect the remaining elixirs. He only remembered the witch medicine prescription, otherwise it wouldn't be as simple as having some influence, and he wanted to make them stop their plans. The reason why the witch clan is so mysterious and feared is not because of how awesome their witchcraft skills are, but because of this witch medicine. With the help of witch medicine, except for the unique antidote of the witch clan, it is also difficult for gods to cure it. Because during the refining process of witch medicine, the spiritual power of the elixir is removed, leaving only the medicinal properties, and then the unique refining techniques of the witch people are used to refine it into extremely fine powder. The powder is colorless, odorless, and invisible, making it difficult for people to detect when they are under the witchcraft. Of course, special groups can still be distinguished. For example, small snakes can smell the smell that makes them sick. In addition, the shamans can also distinguish colorless and tasteless things, which is for monks who use spiritual power to distinguish. In fact, for the witch tribe, those powders are the easiest to distinguish, otherwise how would they distinguish what kind of witch medicine they are? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 486. Chapter 486 Dragon Ball. The Wu clan was in a state of panic that day. They searched all over this small space, but Guanxing and Guanjian were nowhere to be found. In the end, Elder Yao scolded the monks who took care of the elixir until they were bloody, and then went to the clan leader to explain the situation. The patriarch smelled something unusual and quickly asked people to pick all the mature elixirs. The unripe ones were put under strict supervision. Then people entering and leaving must be strictly inspected. There was a huge commotion outside, and Yuan was in the space with her sons to open up the internal spaces of the 49 Sea Kings. The mother and son were speechless. What were they taking apart? Only the little snake was laughing so hard that his triangular eyes were almost gone. In addition to a large number of medium-grade, high-grade and dozens of top-grade spiritual stones, they are all shiny gold and silver used in the mortal world. What kind of vision? Yuan cursed in her heart, returning to the Sea King. Being a king is like a rag picker, not many monks can use it. But it's better than nothing, something is better than nothing. Didn't they come to the mortal world? They will wait for a walk in the mortal world after they get out of here. Mother, look at this. Bao held a bright pearl with spiritual energy in his hand. Yuan had not taken a good look at it when Xiao Snake and De He rushed over at the same time. Master, Master, Dragon Ball, this is the Dragon Ball. The little snake scratched and shouted in surprise. De He kept swallowing his saliva. Yuan looked at the two. Want it? The two nodded at the same time. There's only one. The two of you looked at me and I looked at you. Finally, the little snake said, Master, please refine it for De He. After he is refined, he will turn into a real dragon. I can restore some strength after eating it. Yuan took a look at the little snake and asked, don't you regret it? Little snake nodded, I don't regret it. Yuan moved it. This thing was getting more and more impressive. The Dragon Ball was given to De He. She would definitely not treat the little snake badly. She thought of the gate in the Sea of Knowledge and waited to see what she could get back. De He took the Dragon Ball, did not forget to thank Yuan and the little snake, and then went to retreat. Little snake, will De He just ascend and run away? The little snake was stunned for a moment. It was obvious that it had not thought about this problem. It shook its head. Master, I don't know about this. I don't know, forget it, the Dragon Ball is at the 9th level at most, and it shouldn't be big enough to ascend to the black sky. Yuan comforted herself, and then opened up the spaces in her body. Master, don't throw away these bags, they can be made into storage bags and can hold a lot of things, the little snake said quickly when it saw that Yuan had thrown away the space in the bodies of the Neptune kings. Oh. Yuan picked up those things that were thrown away again. It would be good if he could refine storage bags, or he could sell some spiritual stones. It took the mother and son 10 days to sort out all the things. There were countless gold, silver, and jewelry used in the mortal world. Yuan didn't even know where these guys got these things. I guess I got these things only after arriving in this mortal world from that place. Yuan didn't know how many times she called them idiots in her heart. She didn't want anything from the world of immortality, but collected useless things. There were really a lot of spiritual stones cleared out in the end. There were tens of thousands of top-quality spiritual stones in total. There is no need to mention the top grade, the middle grade, and the low grade. There are also some magic weapons and spiritual treasures used by monks. Yuan puts the usable ones in the treasure pavilion, and puts the unusable ones in a storage bag for the blood-eating monsters to devour later. After that, she went to see the elixirs that the little snake had stolen, and looked at the jade slips one by one. Discovered that these elixirs are not found in the secular world and the world of immortality. It is really unique to the Wu tribe. After memorizing those elixirs, she returned to the wooden house, sat down cross-legged, and entered the realm gate with her consciousness. It was exactly the same as what I saw before, except that there were some new faces on the opposite side. Yuan looked at the medicine field and thought that little snakes like to eat fruits, so she looked for fruit trees in the medicine field. After searching with her consciousness, she came to an orchard. A fruit tree full of red fruits caught Yuan's attention. She didn't know why. She didn't recognize the tree when she saw it, but she wanted it in her heart. As soon as she finished her thoughts, the fruit tree disappeared and appeared at the light gate. Yuan felt a little proud. She could take things with her thoughts, but she didn't know if she could get those people's things. Thinking of this, Yuan stared at the sword in the hand of a male cultivator. When she wanted to put it away, the sword in the man's hand disappeared. The man was shocked and looked around, but the male cultivator disappeared after a while. Yuan was probably scared away. Yuan got a sword after thinking about it. These swords are not special swords from the spiritual world. They are probably divine weapons anyway. In any case, stealing one handful is still stealing, stealing 2 or 3 handfuls is also stealing, so she simply stole 2 more handfuls. Of course, one of them was suitable for her use. Finally, 3 pieces of clothes were stolen. Looking at the 3 people whose clothes were stolen and whose bodies were exposed, Yuan apologized in her heart. Who would have thought that the 3 people were wearing nothing underneath? That was all that was needed for the time being, so Yuan came back with those things. When her consciousness returned, as expected, those few things, including the fruit tree, were all on her bed. Yuan didn't have time to see anything, but her consciousness suddenly brought the fruit tree into the red soil, and she quickly planted it. After planting, she picked a fruit and took it out. Smelling the fragrance of the fruit, Yuan almost swallowed it in one gulp, but she knew how extraordinary the fruit was. After dividing it into pieces the size of little fingers, she called for Liangbao and Little Snake. She first picked up a piece and gave it to the little snake. The little snake smelled the fragrance and swallowed it in one gulp. For a moment, the little snake looked like it was in agony, and in an instant its skin and flesh were torn apart. The little snake kept rolling in the air in pain. The mother and son were dumbfounded. After a long while, the little snake's body slowly transformed into its true form. Stop at the last 40 feet. Boom. The little snake fell down hard and fainted. My elixir. Yuan reacted and ran over. The elixir hit by the little snake was all turned into dregs. Liangbao ran over and swept down the little snake with his consciousness, and saw that it had just fainted, but its body seemed to be changing. They were wondering what kind of fruit the finger-sized fruit was and how it came to be so dangerous. Liangbao helped Yuan up, and Dabao asked, "Mom, when the little snake wakes up, we will plant it again." What kind of fruit is that? Yuan rubbed her little heart and returned to the table with her two treasures. She then cut the finger-sized fruit into several pieces, each piece larger than a grain of rice. She put one in her mouth first. As soon as the fruit is put into the mouth, it melts in the mouth, and a huge force suddenly flows to the limbs and bones, and to the dantian. Yuan quickly sat down cross-legged and started running Starju. As soon as Xing Chenju is activated, the huge force will circulate along with the technique. Wherever it passes, the meridians will be widened and the meridians will become soft but very tough. Seeing the changes in her body, Yuan's mind suddenly changed to Xingju. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 487. Chapter 487, First Hearing About the God Realm. As soon as Xingju was activated, the power would temper her body from the inside out. Yuan can clearly feel a qualitative change in her body. If the body was originally iron, it is now steel. This refining process took 5 days, and the two treasures were kept by her side for 5 days. "Mom, how are you?" Yuan opened her eyes and saw the worried eyes of her two sons. It smells so bad." Yuan slapped her nose and quickly shut down the smell. "Mother, go and wash up and come here, don't eat yet." As she said this, Yuan appeared in a pool with her consciousness. Since there was a river in the space, she had already made a pool for herself to take a daily bath. Yuan came back refreshed, which was really an unexpected surprise. She never thought that the treasure of the secret realm of the gods would be obtained by her. The person who destroyed the gods must be looking for this thing. With this treasure, you can really get something for nothing. Yuan felt very happy. She burned Xingju on the jade slip and asked the two treasures to practice the technique after taking the fruit. Liangbao also happily took the jade slips and fruits and left. Yuan threw 2 of the remaining fruits into the spirit wine, and then gave them to the blood-eating monster insects to devour. Sure enough, after the blood-eating demonic insects devoured the spirit wine, they changed like little snakes and finally lay on the ground and fainted. But their bodies are also changing. Only Dehei didn't enjoy it. He was still refining the dragon beads, and Yuan didn't want to give it to him. Don't eat it and fly away all at once, which would be an advantage for him. No matter what, I have to stay and be her thug. Yuan returned to the wooden house, and she just picked up the 3 swords. Sure enough, the smell on them frightened her. She looked at the exquisite sword and forced a drop of blood onto the sword. As soon as the drops were applied, the blood was sucked out. Why did you change your master to such a low cultivation level? Suddenly Yuanqi remembered a female voice. Are you a weapon spirit? Yuan asked. Yes, master, I am Qi Ling Er. As soon as Ling Er finished speaking, the unparalleled sword floated in front of Yuan, as if he was sizing her up. Ling Er, why did you say there was a new master? Yes, for some reason, Ling Er suddenly broke off the contract with its original owner. Oh, Yuan nodded, she understood. In this way, as long as she takes something in that world, the owner will become ownerless. It's really magical. Master, why is this spiritual energy here? It's not divine power. What, divine power? Where did you find the divine world? Yeah, what's wrong? No, that's right, what was wrong was her. She really went to the god realm to steal things. The world of gods is so far away. She has not yet ascended to the fairy world. Yuan put the Wushuan sword into the sea of consciousness. Next to the boundary gate, she looked at the gleaming women's clothes on the bed. The Wushuan sword is a divine sword, so this clothing should also be a divine garment, right? Yuan still dripped a drop of blood on her clothes. The clothes absorbed the blood, and there was a stream of light. The clothes were automatically put on her body, and the original vestments fell into pieces. That's it? She said that after she plucked out her clothes, there was nothing inside. It turns out this is a complete set of clothes. With a quick scan of her consciousness, the clothes were completely adjusted to her body shape, and they fit perfectly. Hidden. Yuan muttered something silently in her mind, and saw that her figure disappeared, but she was still standing where she was. Then she walked out of the wooden house, but her figure was still not visible. Yuan covered her mouth and laughed, "This is an absolute treasure. The invisibility cloak in the spiritual world can hide, but when the body is moved and the person uses spiritual power, it will appear and be discovered immediately. And this divine garment is really magical. Even if she uses her spiritual power, she is still firmly locked by the divine garment. What Yuan doesn't know is that not even a trace of spiritual energy can leak out, let alone spiritual energy. Haha, let's take action tonight and go to the Wu clan to steal the elixir recipe. Who can catch her with this plug-in?" Yuan was so happy that she burst out laughing. Fortunately, no one in the space saw her, so it wouldn't scare anyone to death. Yuan was happy enough and stepped out of the space. It was still daytime outside, so Yuan hid her body and walked boldly on the road. Yuan looked over. All the mature elixirs of the 5th, 6th, and 7th levels had been collected, leaving only the immature ones, and more people were added to guard them. However, no matter how many people are on guard, it will not help. If she wants to steal, she will still steal. It's just that she didn't dare to let out her spiritual consciousness. There were several spiritual consciousnesses scanning back and forth in this small space. Yuan snorted coldly in her heart, "I'll get a big one for you later." She flew towards the center, where the big bosses of the witch clan were, and the alchemy person was also there. Yuan flew directly over and passed by the monk. The monk only felt like the wind was blowing, but when his consciousness swept away, there was nothing. What a strange thing. The monks who sensed it were all surprised. Yuan Fei stopped in front of several halls. She had to be careful here. The witch medicine of the witch clan was no joke. She was not so stupid as to think that the divine clothes were not afraid of witch medicine. Yuan carefully avoided everyone. She would not follow anyone who was a monk. She only followed the wizard cultivator. It was easy to distinguish the wizard cultivator without spiritual power. The few people I followed were not alchemists, but just ordinary witch cultivators. Just when Yuan was at a loss what to do, Elder Dan came to the clan leader anxiously. Yuan saw that his attire was a little more advanced than ordinary people, he was not a Taoist, and he was in a hurry, so she simply followed Elder Dan. Follow him to the Patriarch's hall, but coincidentally, the Patriarch is not there. He pulled a maid and asked, "Where is the Patriarch?" The maid said, "The Patriarch went to the back mountain for something. If Elder Dan has something urgent, he might as well wait here." "Oh, I can't wait, I can't wait." Elder Dan was anxious. The maid said, "The Patriarch ordered us not to disturb him." The maid was also in a dilemma. The ancestor of Huishan asked the clan leader to go there to discuss important matters. Before leaving, the clan leader told them not to disturb them, and he would come back naturally after the matter was over. Seeing Elder Dan like this, he is afraid that something will happen. "What should we do?" Elder Dan angrily rushed to the back mountain to blow his beard. The clan leader went to find his ancestors. He could only wait for the clan leader to come back. Elder Dan glanced at the maid and left in a hurry. Yuan followed behind, but she couldn't find anything. It took no effort to get there. She was almost furious looking for it, and she met Elder Dan here. When Elder Dan returned to the alchemy hall, he had no idea that there was a tail behind him. When he returned to the alchemy hall, he asked all the people who were refining the witchcraft medicine to stop. It turns out that there is an unknown liquid on the elixir collected today, which seriously affects the refining of the witchcraft medicine. The strange thing is that it cannot be removed no matter how much it is cleaned or refined. The smell is very much like the urine of a monster. Yes, it was the little snake who did it. According to its temper, it had to collect all these elixirs. Who knows what the master's fault was today? As long as one plant of each kind was needed, it secretly collected a tenth of the elixirs. While collecting urine. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 488. Chapter 488, Sweeping the Witch Clan. The urine of the mythical beast is not the urine of ordinary monsters. It cannot be removed, and it will also affect the efficacy of the medicine. Of course, Yuan doesn't know. Elder Dan took care of the matter, and ran to the warehouse angrily, staring at the elixirs in a daze. Yuan he, if he were a Taoist cultivator, she wouldn't be able to do it to him. As a witch cultivator, she wouldn't be afraid even if he didn't use witchcraft medicine. Just when she was about to kill Elder Dan, Yuan considered a problem. Even if she got the witch medicine pill recipe, it seemed that she wouldn't be able to make it. She suddenly thought, why not kidnap a few shamans and alchemists? This Elder Dan is the best candidate. If we let him into the space, what kind of tricks can he do? Yuan doesn't know if the witch cultivators have spiritual consciousness. They know how to make elixirs and medicines, so they must have spiritual consciousness. So Yuan walked quietly to Elder Dan, quickly wrapped her consciousness, and entered the space with Elder Dan. In the space, Elder Dan was suddenly transported to a strange place, which scared him so much that he ran around in the space like crazy. When he saw countless medicinal fields, the place where witch medicine was grown, and the little snake lying in the medicinal field without waking up, Elder Dan was completely stunned on the spot. Others don't recognize those elixirs, but he does. What exactly is going on? Yuan didn't have time to let him be confused. His consciousness moved and a barrier imprisoned him. After that, she stepped out of the space and put all the warehouse, including the shelves, into the space. Later, 4 shamans and alchemists were kidnapped into the space using the same method. Then she quickly flew to the back mountain. Since it was the territory of the ancestor of the Wu clan, there must be good things there. Sure enough, there is a large area of high-level witch medicine on the mountain, with countless 89-level medicines. Although Yuan can't figure out why there are so many high-level elixirs, it must be that witch medicines are not real elixirs, but absorb spiritual energy to grow quickly. Yuan knocked the monk guarding the medicine garden unconscious, entered with his token, and collected the elixir as quickly as possible. Since the people in the alchemy hall are resting temporarily and the clan leader is secretly discussing matters with the ancestors, no one comes in to pick the elixir, and no one pays attention to this place. No one would have thought that the elixirs in front of the ancestors and children would be emptied out. Yuan wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to catch them off guard. Yuan finished collecting the elixirs here in half a day. She did not let go of the monk who was in charge of the elixirs. Instead, she quietly went back to the patriarch's hall and entered his study. After entering, she casually set up a barrier before looking around the study. The patriarch is a witch cultivator. The study room is full of books and some important letters. Yuan quickly entered the space. In a few dozen breaths, the full study became empty. After evacuating, she released her consciousness and checked the study inch by inch to see if there were any mechanisms or formations. After some research, there was no formation, but there was indeed a mechanism. Yuan carefully pressed the secret twist. After a while, a hole in the ground appeared silently. Yuan's consciousness penetrated, and there was no danger, so she flew in immediately. Oh, it turns out it's here. This is an underground secret room. The shelves in the secret room are filled with bottles of elixirs. When she scanned them with her consciousness, they were all filled with witch medicine and witch pills. Most of the witch medicines are used to treat people. Some witch medicines are antidotes and some are used to assist in cultivation. Yuan, naturally, The autumn wind swept away the fallen leaves, leaving not a single hair behind. After finishing collecting, Yuan quickly came out and returned to the study. She closed the secret room and removed the barrier of the study before flying out of the patriarch's hall. Then he went to other places and plundered everything he could. After half a day, he was finally discovered. Yuan curled her lips and realized that the monk was just feeding his vigilance to the dog. Having been secluded from the world for a long time, without even the most basic defense, Yuan really didn't understand that such a reclusive family was so full and exhausted that they went to the world of immortality to cause trouble. I really think that the monks outside are all stupid. Yuan got enough things done and stepped into the space. Even if the witch clan is turned upside down, it has nothing to do with her. The leader of the Wu clan came back from his ancestors happily and saw a large number of people at the entrance of his palace. When they saw him coming back, everyone came forward and talked non-stop. Clan leader, Elder Dan is missing. Clan leader, several clan members are missing from Dantang. Clan leader, all the elixirs in Erdeoken have been stolen. Chief, the elixir in the back mountain has also been stolen, and Guanqiao, the man in charge of the garden, has also disappeared. Chief, my storage bag has disappeared inexplicably. Chief, mine too. Clan chief, there is no elixir left in the alchemy storehouse. The patriarch opened his mouth wide and his head was buzzing. What is going on? Is this an hallucination? How can this be? He slapped his face, it hurt. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. Regardless of the crying tribesmen, he rushed towards the study, opened the door and took a look. At this time, his mind went blank and his legs were weak. He staggered and ran to open the secret room and took a look. His eyes went dark and he fell to the ground. Patriarch, Patriarch. The tribesmen who came behind were also frightened. Someone help the patriarch up. Hurry and report to the ancestors. I don't know who reacted. Everyone was busy trying to get the clan leader out of the secret room. Everyone, look at me, and I look at you. Everyone is in danger. Someone has evacuated most of the Wu clan without anyone noticing, and so many clan members are missing. If this person kills them too, they will be the same. Die quietly. What happened? A majestic male voice sounded. I've met my ancestor. Everyone present knelt down to greet him. A dark shadow flashed, and a middle-aged man stood next to the patriarch. What's going on? The patriarch just left, why did he faint after a while? One of the tribesmen quickly told what happened. What? When did it happen? The black-clothed ancestor was shocked and frightened. Who has the ability to reach the sky? It's just a matter of the past 2 days. 1 or 2 days, these 2 days are the time when they discuss important matters. The black-clothed ancestor was shocked. He quickly injected his witchcraft power into the clan leader's physical strength, and the clan leader slowly woke up. Ancestor, the patriarch is about to cry but has no tears. The black-clothed ancestor waved his hand and said, don't be impatient for a moment, calm down. There is no need to investigate this matter clearly. Put down the previous matters first, and then talk about it after settling the people in the clan. Let's find out what is going on outside. I will ancestors go back. The patriarch nodded feebly, don't be impatient, just calm down, his baby. The patriarch wants to die. For a monk, his most important treasure has been lost. What is the difference between this and losing his life? The patriarch nodded and got up desperately. No matter how distressed the clan leader is, how much he wants to die, or how much he wants to cut the little thief who stole his treasure into pieces, he cannot ignore the important affairs of the clan. So the patriarch immediately summoned the elders of each church. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 489. Chapter 489 The Secret of the Year. The ancestor in black returned to the back mountain and called several other ancestors together. Among all the ancestors, the female ancestor Guanyi is the strongest. Her strength is much better than that of the Mahayana monks. She pondered for a long time, glanced at the ancestors with her beautiful eyes and said, "We are afraid that our plan will not go smoothly, so we should stop it for the time being." The other 6 ancestors nodded. Which medicine was the basis for their survival? The roots were broken. No matter how capable they were, they could still outdo the great monks in the entire spiritual world. They, the Wu clan, were fully prepared to go out and fight with the few in front of them with live ammunition, and the strength of 7 more Mahayana would be of no use. Some large sects have so many Mahayana monks, and they are really powerful. Without which medicine, going out will undoubtedly be like hitting a stone with an egg. One of the ancestors thought for a while and said, "Then I don't know when the ancestors' revenge will be avenged." The black-clothed ancestor said, "We can't let everyone go to die, right? Are we afraid of not having firewood to burn even though the green hills are still there?" Another ancestor sighed and said, "What he's said is that the ancestors' revenge must be avenged. If he hadn't saved the last members of our Wu clan back then, I was afraid that the Wu clan would have been wiped out. I won't talk about what happened back then. Let's first let the clan open a remote place to grow elixirs. This time Heza will watch and don't let anything happen again." Guanyi said, "If it weren't for the ancestors who had to rule the entire spiritual world. So much so that the witch clan was almost wiped out. Although that battle did not lead to a century-old war, it was not a small war. The Mahayana monks in the spiritual world defeated the Wu clan at that time, and there were countless casualties on both sides. Guanyi doesn't like to cause further turmoil, but the legacy of her ancestors is there, and she doesn't have the final say alone. So, if you can support me, it's best to support me until you forget this lesson." The ancestor in black nodded. This high-level discussion ended like this. "Heza, you stay." Just when everyone dispersed, Guanyi left behind the ancestor in black. The ancestor in black stayed behind. After the other 5 people left, Guanyi waved his hand and set up a barrier. She asked the black-clothed ancestor to sit down. After the black-clothed ancestor restarted, he frowned and said, "What's going on with Aunt Yi?" Guanyi said, "Pay attention to Xiaoguan town. He always wants to go out and die when he goes out. He is afraid of bringing disaster to the Wu clan. Such a big thing that happened to the clan this time is not an accident." The ancestor in black said, "Guanzhen always wants to go out not for revenge. He is similar to the ancestor back then. This person is a trouble. So keep an eye on him. You can even destroy him at the critical moment. The Wu clan can no longer withstand the wind and rain. The Wu clan is like this mountain in the sea, it may be destroyed at any time. Although in the secular world, not all people have come to find him." Guanyi looked at the plants and trees in the Wu clan worriedly. "Can't you put down your ambition and practice peace of mind to ascend to the immortal world? Isn't that delicious?" The black-clothed ancestor nodded and the 2 of them dispersed. In the space, Yuan brought Elder Dan in front of her. During these days that Elder Dan was trapped, he couldn't get out of here despite all his efforts. When she figured out that this might be the legendary life space, she gave up the idea of escape. "Beat. Can you beat the Space Master? There is nothing we can do even if the gods come." "Elder Dan." Elder Dan glanced at Yuan and said calmly, "If you want to know about the Wu clan, I advise you not to ask." "Yuan, you are overthinking. I am not interested in the affairs of your witch clan. I left you here to help me plant and refine witch medicine. Of course, you have 2 choices, one is to obey, the other is to die." Elder Dan was stunned for a moment, and after a while he said, I choose the latter. The witch clan has too many secrets, and this female cultivator is not a simple person at first glance. If one day he leaks the secrets of the witch clan, it would be a shame for him to die, but the witch clan will be beyond redemption. In fact, Elder Dan had a misunderstanding. Yuan was already in their witch clan. If he could be kidnapped without anyone noticing, would the witch clan be safe? Yuan nodded. There was no use keeping such a single-minded idiot. She then killed Elder Dan with a soul thorn and took off his storage ring. Like Elder Dan, none of the other people chose to live. Yuan had no intention of hiding and killed them all. It is impossible to expose things in space. If it is not used by her, she will die. The most important thing is that they are all witch cultivators. What if they get out of trouble and hurt their son? There is no absolute thing in the world. Although the chance of this is small, it may happen if her soul is harmed. After Yuan collected all the people's belongings, she threw their bodies directly on the black earth. After a while, only a pile of clothes was left, and she burned them again. After handling everything, Yuan took Elder Dan's storage ring and rummaged through it with her spiritual consciousness. There were books and jade slips inside. She took it out and looked for it, and found out that there was indeed a recipe for witch medicine. She looked at the elixir recipes carefully, and as expected, only witchcraft could be refined. She also stopped studying the witchcraft elixir recipes. But it's good to have a comprehensive understanding. Anyway, she plundered the things belonging to the clan leader and Elder Dan. There were a lot of antidotes to the witch medicine in them, so she could keep herself safe. Every day after that, Yuan would go out to do things at night, which annoyed the clan leader so much that he made his head grow bigger. Finally, he asked Guan Yi to come out. It's useless for Guan Yi to come out. She monitors the entire space with her consciousness 12 hours a day, but she can't find anyone, and people are attacked or stolen every night. Guan Yi got so angry that she wanted to abandon this place and give it to that person. It's a pity that they really have nowhere to go. 10,000 to 20,000 people did not just leave. This went on for half a year. Yuan felt that it was almost done, so she opened the barrier and left without warning. The moment she opened the barrier, she was discovered by Guan Yi, who struck her with a palm. She felt that someone was hit, but she was directly knocked out of the barrier with her palm. After Yuan was kicked out of the barrier by Guan Yi, she fell far away and then fell into the sea with a bang. Tisk, 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 the strength of the Mahayana period is different. If she hadn't had the divine clothes on her body, she would have been chopped into pieces. After Guan Yi felt that someone had been hit, she dodged and followed him out, searching everywhere with her consciousness. She saw a strange scene. At the moment Yuan fell into the sea. Something obviously fell into the sea, but you couldn't see what it was. By the time Guan Yi teleported to the sea, everything was calm. Guan Yi stayed there for a long time, but Yuan had already entered the space. There was movement in the water, so the moment she fell into the sea, she had already entered space. Let Guan Yi stay until the end of time, and the sea will dry up and the stone will rot, while she, Yuan, can practice leisurely and contentedly in the space. Occasionally, I went to visit the God realm, and when I saw something in need, I took the sheep. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 490. Chapter 490 Returning to the Immortal Cultivation World. Guan Yi waited at sea for a month before leaving. She didn't have much time to spend here. Yuan took the opportunity to come out and fly towards the mortal world. She was planning to go to the mortal world and then return to the world of immortality. Elder Dan's storage ring contained a map to the world of immortality. After disposing of the common objects used by mortals in the space, she returned. When flying to Yukon, just fly straight forward. Soon he arrived in the mortal realm. Yuan scattered some gold and silver in the beggars' dens in various cities and left. Or in a poor village. It took a full month to finish dealing with those mundane things. On this day, Yuan came to the barrier, and her spiritual power covered her palms and pressed against the barrier. Sure enough, a light door opened in the barrier, and she quickly stepped in. Arrived at the city, Yuan heard people everywhere saying that many witch cultivators had been found in various major sects and major immortal cultivating families. I didn't expect that the Wu tribe has experienced such harm and has been hiding in our family for so long. Hey! Who says it's not the case? If these witch cultivators are not found, my God, what will happen? Tisk tisk tisk. That's because disciples often disappeared in the sect in the past, so there's no need to think that they were killed by witch cultivators. Don't let down your guard now, everyone. These are just part of the Wu clan, and there are still people in their hometown. Yes, yes, this Taoist friend is right to remind me, thank you very much. When Yuan heard this, she wondered whether she should tell the people in the world of immortality about the lair of the witch clan. The ambitious race can be completely eradicated, and the world of immortality can be stable for a while. Yuan finally decided to copy the map of the Wu clan and give it to a certain sect. If it is announced casually, everyone in the world of immortality will know it, and the remaining people of the Wu clan will also know it. They notified the Wu clan early, so isn't their hard work in vain? As for the people from the sect, it seemed that she only knew Rongxiu's sect, but when she returned to the immortal realm, she received a message from Rongxiu, telling her to be careful. Tianshan's sword sect is still not giving up on her divine beast. Thinking of the mythical beast, Dehe is about to pass the tribulation. And don't they want a mythical beast? She can go to the god realm to catch one for them, so that they don't have to worry about her all the time. It was night, and Yuan sent a message to Rongxiu to meet him. Rongxiu was practicing. After receiving the message from Yuan, he was overjoyed and hurried down the mountain towards where Yuan was. 3 days later, the two met in Double City. In the tea house, Rongxiu ran up and saw the figure sitting against the window. Well, here we go, sit down. Okay. Rongxiu sat opposite her, poured himself some tea and took a sip. How is Waner doing lately? Fortunately, I came to see you to tell you something. Rongxiu, what's the matter? Yuan handed him the jade slip. Rongxiu took it and looked at it. He was surprised and said, Waner has been there. How can I be so detailed if I have never been there? Yuan nodded, and she handed another spirit beast bag to Rongxiu. Give this to your section. The premise is that you can no longer stare at my little snake and big black, otherwise you will make a contract yourself. Rongxiu took it again. Did you get this from the witch clan? Yuan nodded. Rongxiu said, I will go back and inform the master before making a decision. Waner should be more careful. I know, it's time to go back quickly. Okay, Waner, I'm leaving then. Rongxiu took a deep look at her and left quickly. The two things in his hands were no small matter. Rongxiu rushed back to Tianshan's sword sect without stopping. On the formation peak, Venerable Yanji looked at the two things in his hands. He collected the jade slips and returned the spirit beast bag to Rongxiu. Disciple, you have made this contract yourself, and you don't need to hand it over to the section. As for your friend's affairs, I think it depends on this, and the sect should not have any ideas about her anymore. As soon as Venerable Yanji felt the aura of the divine beast, he felt a sense of fear. This was probably not a simple divine beast, and the sect probably couldn't suppress it even with it. Since it was given to me by my disciple's friend, she must be able to tame this beast. Of course he didn't bother to rob his disciple's things, he hated taking by force the most. Rongxiu took the spirit beast bag and didn't know what kind of beast it contained. He thought the master looked down on it. He put it away and returned it to Yuan another day. And Yuan is no longer in the spirit world. After parting that day, Yuan left the city and flew towards the mountains and forests. She was preparing to find a place for Dehe to survive the calamity. She was afraid that Dehe would not be able to withstand the lightning strike, so she went to the god realm to prepare something for Dehe. Dehe is too big, and she is thinking about what kind of thing to get for him. If she doesn't have a divine weapon, she can also use an immortal weapon. At this moment, the scene opposite the realm gate suddenly changed. The aura overflowing from the realm gate was much weaker but much stronger than the spiritual energy. Is this the fairy world? Yuan was pleasantly surprised. Can the world gate lead to any interface? So she silently thought about Kinjao continent, and what appeared on the opposite side was indeed Kinjao continent. Her mind was agitated, and her consciousness penetrated through the boundary door. Unexpectedly, even people entered. Yuan looked up to the sky and screamed happily. She only knew that such a treasure had this function today. Then she can go wherever she wants in the future. It is indeed a treasure that even gods are looking for. Yuan guessed that it was true that those people from the god clan said that they were descendants of the god clan. Their ancestors must have stolen this treasure and came to the Lingxu realm through the realm gate. Then they found the stolen god man and took away the treasure. The place is isolated and thrown on the bottom of the sea, only to appear once every 1,000 years so that people can find the things. Just why such a treasure was not taken away by the man of God? Yuan guessed that the person who stole the gate had tampered with it. In the end, I got it by accident. It seems that it is better not to steal things in the god realm in the future to avoid being discovered. Yuan thought of this, and she quickly flew to Juyo City. When flying high into the sky, I suddenly thought that Mujukan didn't know whether he was alive or dead. What would they say when they asked? Later, I only sent a message to Yuhairan, telling him that their family is doing well now and practicing in the same place. She only used her spiritual consciousness to check the two tribes from above, and saw that the two tribes had grown a lot. Let them develop slowly in Kinjao continent. The spiritual world is not suitable for them. Yuan glanced at it and then left, returning to the spiritual world. After returning from the fairy world, she stole a handful of immortal weapons and asked Dehe to survive the tribulation. After Dehe passed through the tribulation, he turned into a black dragon, and his strength reached the 9th level. Yuan accepted him into the space and left quickly. As expected, as soon as she left, several powerful men came over. They sensed the remaining aura and determined that it was a divine beast that had passed through the calamity. Unfortunately, they arrived a step too late. With the lightning protection array and the fairy weapon, Yuan found a place for the blood-eating monsters to survive the disaster. This transition took 10 years, half of the 400,000 blood-devouring demonic insects made it through successfully, and the other half died in the process of breaking through to the 5th level. The main reason is that their bloodline is too low, and they explode halfway through the breakthrough. End of this chapter.